Call to order Services Committee meeting, Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. First item is roll call. Jim Morrison.
Here.
Dan Ormsby.
Here.
Ed Rankin, here. Item 3, discussion of fire EMS schedule staffing change proposal. Sue?
Yes. You have in your packets a memo from me talking about our staffing pattern in fire EMS, and goes through a bit of the history. We've approached this in a pretty methodical way over time to try and get staffing up to levels that were appropriate. We've addressed wages. We originally addressed schedule, because the original schedule had our people working 80 to 90 hours a week, because there was a callback provision that said when you left, if a call came in, you come back. You weren't really off duty, you were coming back, and they did. So when we went to the 56-hour schedule, the people that we had at the time thought that was great, because 56 is a lot less than 80 or 90, and they actually could have a day off. And then, as has happened in many other areas, the world has moved ahead, and the other departments that had 56-hour work weeks no longer do. Every department that's full-time in our region is a 42-hour work week schedule. I believe there's one other town in Maine right now that has 56-hour schedule, and I think that is Rumford. So despite adjusting wages and benefits and that kind of thing, we attract people, but we attract people that need to be trained, that will do that, and we train them, and they leave us, and the exit interviews for these people indicate that they leave us for one reason, and it's schedule, because they can go to other municipalities and have 42-hour work weeks. And I believe we've lost 7 in a little over 2 years to this. It costs an average of $22,000 to train a person to go from one level advanced to paramedic. And that's not just tuition and books. That's the cost of the staffing replacement while they're attending classes. It's similar to what the Criminal Justice Academy is, except there's a law that allows us, under that scenario, that if someone takes one of your people, you get reimbursed. The only thing we're allowed to do, and we do it in our contract, is recover a portion of the tuition and books costs if they leave before they've stayed with us 3 years post-training. But that's not an impediment, because their new agency will pay that fee in order to get them. So in looking at how to accomplish a change to 4 shifts of 3 instead of 3 shifts of 3, obviously needs 3 people. With the 56-hour schedule in the budget, if we converted, there's about $100,000 available due to reductions in vacation and comp time and all the things that go along with the 56-hour instead of 42-hour. And if we started it on September 1st, it would be 3/4 of a year, not a whole year. The whole year cost would be approximately $300,000. It's about $100,000 per employee when you add in all of the benefits plus the wages. But if we have $100,000 and it's 3/4 of a year, we need about $150,000 in this year, which I would recommend coming from ARPA in order to accomplish this. Next year's budget would need to assimilate, so to speak, approximately $200,000. And the reason I didn't put it in this year's is this year is also assimilating all of the other big hits that we had this year for energy costs, for fuel, for electricity, and those kind of things. So if we did it as a 3/4 of the year and picked that up, absorbing that is easier next year than it would have been in this year's budget, and we have those funds available to do that. The other thing that becomes a possibility is that we would attract trained people that wouldn't require training on top of it, because we would then have very competitive wages, extremely competitive benefits, and the schedule that is the norm, rather than the schedule which we have, which is the exception, which when they're working 56 hours a week, there's not really an incentive to take an extra shift or to come back. But they're having to do that now because we're never fully staffed. We're always looking for somebody because somebody has stepped away. They don't say they hate us. They don't say we're a terrible place to work. They say the schedule is, I don't want to work 56 hours a week. I want to work 42 hours. Or I don't want to, so, you know, I've met with department members, Deputy Chief Denning and I have talked, as I told you in your email when you got this, Director Gagan couldn't be here this evening, but he's been up to his neck involved in the discussion of this kind of a proposal as well. And because what I really don't want to do is lose anyone else, and would like to be able to fill the slots with people who there would be no, it's the last piece that we're missing, but we really have approached this in a very methodical way. Nobody went from 0 to 100 here. When I came here, there were 4 people working 100 hours a week and never really having any time off. And our call numbers are not going down. I mean, we had, it doesn't happen all the time, but we had 3 calls within an hour. We couldn't respond to the 3rd call. That call had to go somewhere else. There's just not enough people. And when they're working 56 hours, getting people to turn around and come back more is not necessarily a reasonable thing to expect. And once upon a time, we had a much more robust call department that filled in some of these things. But part of that is the way society is, but part of it is the extensive training and licensure requirements that are required for even call people to have for capabilities in order to respond to fire or EMS. So I think it's important. I wouldn't bring it to you if I didn't. And I think that we have a way to accommodate it financially that won't break the bank in order to do those things. And, you know, there's 1,400 or more calls a year. We need to be able to meet that. And if we are never fully staffed, it's almost impossible to do that. Happy to answer any questions. We have department members here who I'm sure would be happy to answer any questions you have about.
Just to clarify, if we started September 1st
Yes.
this year, we got about 100,000 available, so you'd be looking to take
150
from ARPA,
from ARPA
just to settle us in this year.
to do it this year, and then next year's budget will require approximately $200,000 additionally to fund that, because 100,000 is already built into this budget because of the cost of the 56-hour-a-week
Yeah.
stuff. And this includes wages and benefits. Benefits aren't reflected in the fire department budget itself. It's under insurances. But what I'm asking for covers both the benefit and the wage, all the costs of implementation of this for 3/4 of the year process.
Anyone from Fire EMS? have anything to add?
Well, I'll start. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you all for hearing us tonight. You know, I guess being here, I was hired in 1991 full-time, and the original schedule we were on was terrible. You had no family time, and we had 4 full-timers, and you work 2 days and 2 nights with 4 days off. When you worked your 2 days, you were on call at night, and when you worked your 2 nights, you were on call during the day. So you really never got any recoup time to unwind. And back then, we had a robust call department. So as an antiquated system, looking back on it, it worked for the time being. We had approximately 35, and I believe in I think 2004, we had 43 call members, and they were active. And as everything went, call department membership, and it wasn't just in Bucksport, it was everywhere, started declining. So at the time, Chief Bowden put in for a FEMA SAFER grant for 2 more full-timers, which at the time, that's what he was allowed to ask for. I think if you asked him, what he really wanted was 4 people, so you could have continuity of the 4 plus another 4 on each shift, so you'd have 2 on each shift. Well, we didn't have that to work with. We had 4, and we got 2 with the FEMA SAFER grant. So how do you mesh 3 crews and only have 2 to add to it, so you'd have 2 crews essentially with just still 1 person? So the idea was, well, let's do this. Let's do away with the callback. Let's go to a 56-hour 3-platoon schedule, and we'll double the manpower. We'll go from 1 on to 2 on. Well, it worked. And aside from Gray, the other 3 captains here and myself were the older 4 people who came off that old schedule. And we thought that was going to this 56 was awesome. It was like, wow, this is a good schedule. Well, as calls kept creeping up, and it just started wearing on you. It got to the point where you get off your 24-hour shift, you just want to go home. You know, some shifts you have, I mean, yesterday we had 8 calls. I don't know how many we had today. You just want to go home and just chill out and rest. So, for whatever reason, and I hate to go back to COVID, but 2 years ago, I could see other departments switching. The fire and EMS did a 180, and they all started going to 42 because that's what the younger hires wanted. They didn't want to work 56, they wanted 42. So we're pretty much the last ones. I know Rumford, and I believe the only other one may be Gardner, and I haven't confirmed that yet, but that's about it. So I think going with this new schedule is good for morale, because I can tell you how frustrating it is to our current members that have to train these people, and we have daily training. And it's not just 1 or 2 weeks, oh, you're good to go. This is an ongoing training. It's an investment. And these people leave, and it's very, you know, it's tough on the crews. It's frustrating. It's bad for morale. So I think we have one more piece of the puzzle, and I think I know of 2 that are already trained, are just waiting for the 42-hour work week. And I think we can save money in the long run. We're spending thousands of dollars, and these people are walking. So, anyway, thank you for your consideration.
Couple of questions for you, Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ed.
Oh, go next, Steve.
How many hours, can you just enlighten us on the hours it takes to be trained on Engine 1? How many hours do you have to put in to drive time and everything to make Engine 1 function?
How many hours on just frontline engine one do we train people before they can actually take it out, pump it out of a seam?
Well, we have to
Roughly.
send them through an EVOC class unless they come from another department that already has the EVOC class. So that's a weekend class, and then we require 10 hours, 6 to 10 hours. We take them through a cone course of our own to see that they can handle the truck. And then they have to put in those hours before they can be on their own. And it's not just driving the truck, you have to understand hydraulics and how to pump a truck. You have to know how to hook into a hydrant, and you need to know not to dump a hydrant or pump that truck so that you're gonna break the system. So it's just ongoing, and if we don't have any active fires, we have to keep reiterating all of these processes because they don't stick. If you don't use it and you can't apply the skill, they may get some live fires in their fire academies, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have a live fire when they're doing an EVOC class. So we have to train them constantly, and it's not just the truck, it's every piece of equipment that's on the truck. The fans, the saws, how to take care of them, how to sharpen them.
Times 7 trucks?
times
Yeah,
7
and that's
trucks.
kind of what I was going
And
with.
every
That's
piece of
one
the
truck.
apparatus doesn't necessarily work like the other one, so you're relearning everything, so it's constantly, we're taking these people out, we have 3 trained instructors, and we take them out and we drive with them, and then we make sure, you know, driving a ladder truck is a lot different than driving engine 1, because she's so big, and a lot of people don't have spatial awareness, they drive little cars, so you have to teach them spatial awareness.
I asked that question just to shed some light on what Sue said about the training hours and the time and money spent. It's not always about money spent like uniforms and investing in their education. It's about the time that we're
Right.
spending someone to train them on our behalf,
Right.
driving the trucks around, spending money on fuel and
Yep.
all the other things. There's a
Mm.
lot of our time that is invested that we're also losing.
I mean, if you look at it, our community, we're investing in each individual as an investment. We're putting this time and money and effort for them to stay to protect our community. And it's heartbreaking when they walk out the door. So, and I've had many conversations with Sue about getting that plateau, and geez, we're finally gonna smooth out here and have full cruising, slide back down. And I don't know how many times I've said it. A lot of times, so.
What's your average, when you go on a call, what's the average that you're there for that one call?
On an ambulance call, it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
So
But that
any more-
depends on the severity of the call. If it's
Right,
a,
right.
you use a lot of medications and stuff, you have to restock at the pharmacy, there's more to it. During and after COVID, you have to air the rig, decon it for the next call, and get back in service and be ready to go for the next one, because they just keep on coming.
So with the schedule right now, any more than 2 calls within 2 hours, we need help.
Oh,
right?
gosh, yeah,
It's 2 calls,
yeah,
everybody's going.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
The other night, we had 3 calls within 40 minutes. And it happens. It
How
happens.
often?
Well, I'll say this. I don't have the exact figure, but I did some, and I will get that information, because our budget year is just about done, how many second and third calls we haven't been able to staff. And I'm gonna say it's gonna be between 25 and 40 calls this budget year.
And
that
what do
we
you
have
do
to
when
call.
that happens and you can't staff that?
We have to call a mutual aid company in Orrington, Brewer, Northern Light, Ellsworth.
Warrington helped
Pack.
you today, didn't they?
What's that?
Warrington helped you today, didn't they?
We did.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. We had a serious call. One rig was out. And we had ALS Advanced, which was me, and Gray were on the second rig, and it's part of our protocol. Get a paramedic headed this way. We'll call them off if we have to. but at least get them there, so.
How many applicants are you getting when you post a position? On
Well,
average, I know it changes, but.
we used to get a good amount, local, state,
Yep.
and those all dried up. Obviously, because all these departments went to a D crew,
Yep.
and they gobbled all up available help, so we're even on Indeed, going out of state, so. Gray actually was hired through Indeed. He was a good hire. And he moved his family up here from Carolinas, so.
Does this affect the contract at all?
Oh, yeah. Well, the contract would have to be reopened for the purpose of the schedule change.
Okay.
And your call numbers, you said the people you call are down, how far down are they? You know, the numbers of people you can call in for help. You said you used to have 40, 30, 40.
Yep. I can tell you, we have about 12 members on the call department, and probably 5 to 6 are actually active.
So it's really not
So
many at all.
what you see on duty is pretty much what we have. We might have 1 or 2 here and there show up, which is greatly, appreciated.
What qualifications do they have?
On the call department,
Yes.
they go through firefighting training just like any one of us.
So you have trained them as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's ongoing training for them as well. They're firefighter 1. Do we have some on firefighter 2, Chris? On the call, so, I mean, they're qualified, but they're only called when, they only respond when they're available. So,
So they're on call, but sometimes they don't respond?
yeah, they don't get paid to be on call, on the call department. They get paid per call, so if they respond, they get a 2-hour call in, so.
If they're at work during the day and they're
Yeah,
banged
and
with
that's the other thing. Back when the mill was here, we had a robust, the mill would even allow, at one point, people to go out if the call warranted it.
Thank you. I'll direct my questions to Steve. He seems to be right on top of it.
Okay?
And if you want to, I'm right here.
Yep, good. When you were first hired, were you aware that the hours were, I think your word was horrific? Were you aware of that? Did they make you aware of that when you
When I
came in
first joined,
and applied?
we were aware of it. However, the calls back when I was there, there were 400 or 500 total fire and ambulance calls.
Mhm.
They're 1,400 now, 1,500, so the calls, we got away with it by not hiring people because of the robust call members.
Well,
And the
are
calls.
these calls, these 1,400 calls, are they comparable to the calls you got when you had 400 calls, or have you added new categories on that you're being called for?
No, they're the same
Okay.
calls, we're just getting more of them. People utilize,
What's the reason for that? Have we increased the size of the population that drastically?
well, we service 8,000 citizens for ambulance for 3 towns, and probably 5,500 for fire for Verona and Bucksport. I mean, if you look at 8,000 people, it's a small city.
Well,
and
we're older too. I mean,
Our,
a lot of
yep,
younger.
our population's aging, they're at home. We've added, multi-unit apartments over the years. We have the assisted living place. I mean, it all adds up. Housing developments, it all adds up. It all over the years, so.
You must be seeing an increase in drug-related calls.
Oh, it's bad. Yep.
So, if this schedule change goes through,
Yeah.
and when does the contract get opened?
If the council, if the committee puts this forward to the council, it would be on your next agenda.
Yep.
And at that time, the contract would be reopened for the specific purpose of the schedule change and the items that go with that, not to open the whole world up.
Yep.
But we did this before when we went to 56. We
Yep.
opened it up for that purpose. That would happen then, but once the approval was done, the program, they would move forward with advertising and trying to hire with a date of September 1.
Where you did it once before, do you see any unforeseen costs that would surprise you?
Actually, I've gone through this with a fine-tooth comb to try and make sure that I'm not understating what the costs would be. And Union Steward, Captain Payson, has done a lot of work on this as well. She and I met, and she had provided a good deal of information, as well as information on what other departments with this 42-hour schedule have for costs, et cetera, to make sure they haven't left anything out of those kind of things. But I guess the answer is no. I think that it's been a deliberate process, and it's pretty well researched, and because our alternative is to continue to be a training ground for everybody else. And that, I mean, if that's an alternative, but the costs of that alternative are that we'll have more calls that we're sending off to others because we won't have people responding to come back after this kind of schedules, and we'll be running short people all the time.
Yeah, I have, and I did this, and I'm not sure I have enough copies, but you're more than welcome to look at it. On the first page is our current schedule. On the second, and that's a 56-hour work week. On the second page is the 42-hour work week. If you folks want it and just review it. If you look at this current schedule, I mean, when we went to this, as good as it was, I had to actually have a calendar at home and put a 24 each day of the month when I was working, because it was all over the place. But it worked, so.
You want to email that to?
If that works for everyone, I absolutely can. Yep.
Appreciate it.
I can also give you historical data. Fire departments are very good at statistics. We keep them. I like statistics. And I can go back as far as 1972 with total fire calls, EMS calls, the total calls, and what the full-time staffing levels were. So it gives you an idea of where we the history of our fire department. It's kind of interesting.
You said most of the fire, there's only a couple that aren't on the 42-hour schedule now?
I believe
Are most of them
Gardner and Rumford.
Nothing, we looked at 10 departments
Yep.
in this. We're the only one.
Yep.
That's, and when we're looking, for where we hired, we didn't used to have to use an Indeed kind of thing to look. We attracted locally.
Yep.
And truthfully, we did attract some locally that were really good, and we got them trained, and they went somewhere else. Which was, I mean, I would like to be mad at them. Truthfully, I'd like to be really mad, but
You can't blame them.
Yeah.
If you look at numbers.
if you look at numbers, and I'm in my 20s or early 30s, and I have kids, and I want to have a life, then
Yeah, it's a quality of life issue.
It's a day and a
For young
half.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this is, I'm a little partial here just because this is what I do for a living for 300 people, is build schedules, and the difference is a day and a half. And I can tell you right now, in the workforce, it doesn't matter whether you're a firefighter or not.
Yep.
People are taking the schedule over the compensation
Yes.
sometimes, especially when, and they are far more mobile than they ever used to be. So if there's a town across the river or down the road or even 30 miles away that says, we'll pay you the same amount of money and you get a day and a half of your life back, they're gone.
Yep, sure.
And all we're doing is training them.
Yep,
And there's a word for that in terms of what you're doing with your money.
yep.
Right into the wind.
And
Yeah.
I think morale in the fire
Well, and that-
department
we haven't
is
even
is
talked about
paramount,
morale. Yep.
and it's killing our
Yep.
morale.
Yep, and safety. And,
Yep.
So, obviously, I've.
We like to keep good people.
absolutely. Again, you're investing in these people, and we want them to stay for a career, so.
Or at least long enough so that, the other thing that happens when you train, if you bring in people, is people have to learn the community. It's like having your police department turn over all the time.
Yep.
People need to know where things are. They need to know the difference between X road and Y road
Yep.
to be able to respond effectively. And if people are gone in a year or a year and a half, that learning curve is all the time.
What do you need out of this?
I need a vote from the committee as to whether you would recommend that this move forward to the council, and if you do, they would have it on the agenda at the next meeting.
How does the committee feel?
I'm for it. I think we should move forward to do that. We need to be competitive. Like in so many different job markets. I mean, we see it in education too. We have to be able to pull people in, and there has to be something that's attractive. And if it's more attractive all around us, that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna keep next person. And I don't wanna keep training and having go. I'd rather have some longevity here.
Do you want to do a motion to approve the council?
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve the 42-hour schedule to the council.
I'll second that. All in favor?
You gotta do it opposed.
All opposed? Sorry.
All right.
Okay, motion is approved to send to council.
Motion to adjourn?
Second? All in favor? Meeting adjourned.